What up, DJ Nubis? Here with you on About Time Radio podcast with a special edition review for the 1994 classic The Crow, based on a James L. Barr graphic novel. With me today, Anthony Jordan from Movies and Gaming. Thank you for being here, sir. And the man of the hour, who has never seen it until recently, Walter Ross, aka Jedi Grand Vale. Thank you for being here, my friend. Appreciate it. So let's break down first. So we're gonna go through and just give the information on what the story is about. Directed by Alex Proyas, who also did Dark City. For those that enjoyed that movie, cast consists of Brandon Lee, Michael Wincott, Ernie Hudson, Bai-Ling, David Patrick Kelly, and Tony Todd, just to name a few. Plot is a man brutally murdered comes back to life as an undead avenger of his and his fiance's murder. Quickly, my background with this particular movie, if anybody's ever paid attention to my fucking channel, the things I said, I have two all-time favorite movies, Brotherhood of the Wolf and The Crow. And I must have saw this film about 3 times in the movie theaters upon its release. This is, of course, after I kind of soon discovered Brandon through Rapid Fire like a year or so beforehand. So when I had heard the news about this, got really excited about it. Didn't really know anything about the story, but I just knew I liked Brandon and his work. And of course, being the son of Bruce Lee, a legendary martial artist, the interest is there. And so obviously for my birthday, if you see back here, a friend of mine way back when got me this wonderful poster of Brandon as Eric Draven. I need to get it reframed really because it's been a while like this, and I haven't really found a place to put it. So whenever we move, we're probably gonna redo some shit. Also, I didn't just get like the regular soundtrack, which is amazing, by the way, for those that enjoy this. Also got the regular one, Graham Revell, so the regular part of the soundtrack as well. And then as far as like they said that at the time, like I have this on VHS and a graphic novel somewhere, but they're buried, so I don't know exactly where they are. So I'm sorry if I can't show you. But I've gotten this too. This was something that was released around the same time. It's a collector series when Paramount sold the rights to Miramax, and so this was like a double DVD thing where they were giving you some behind the scenes footage and interviews. So really cool stuff in that. I need to get the Blu-ray. I think they have it in 4K now. They just released that not too long ago. Yep, there it is. Or is that the 4K? Is that just a Blu-ray? Okay, yeah. So I need to get mine on Blu-ray.
In at Walmart.
Mm-hmm. So what is I'm going with Anthony because Walter, obviously you just recently saw it, but Anthony, what's your background with this particular movie and Brandon Lee?
Well, for the record, I knew about the Brandon Lee tragedy. Like, I didn't really see this one growing up because I spent a good chunk of the 90s without cable, so I didn't really have any way to see it. I knew about the Brandon Lee tragedy. I heard stories about the Lee family curse. And just, it was one of those movies that had a reputation. It wasn't until 2018, a friend put it on a thumb drive for me, and I finally got to sit down and watch it. And it was a unique experience because, on one hand, and don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking the movie, but it is like it's one of those just quintessential 90s movies. It captured the look and feel of the early to mid 90s so perfectly, and you just got this, in retrospective with what happened, extra haunting performance by Brandon Lee that just elevate. I hate to sound grim, but same thing happened with The Dark Knight, where just that tragedy involving the actor just somehow elevates the movie, and it had to percolate on me for a while, but I could probably put this maybe in my top 15 favorite of all time.
Yeah. So, Walter, I mean, obviously you are familiar with Bruce Lee and martial arts movies and stuff because you're part of that group that we're all in that talks and stuff. So, obviously, you just recently saw this one. So, why do you think it took you so long to kind of get around to seeing this flick?
Well, and I was thinking about that, really gestated why it took so long, because like I say, I could easily watch this, but I feel that partially because of, like I say, what you mentioned about Brandon Lee, with Rapid Fire, which is a pretty decent film of his. I feel that was showing his craft and his martial arts and everything. It When I heard about his untimely death in the filming of this film, it kind of, I guess it could have put a sour tone in my mouth, kind of like, I don't know if I want to watch this film where this man dies while doing this film. And if you watch it now, it seems like it's just kind of, I don't know, it's makes you feel, I mean, it might give me the ick in a sense, make me feel like,
Yeah, sure.
feeling that way, And then too, there was a time when, like I say, where I was, I don't know if everyone knows this, but I was in a, which I still am, but I was more in tone with, religion in terms of, you can't watch these things, you're not supposed to watch these things, blah, 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 and all that stuff. And time progressed, and eventually I would, leave this particular, covenant and everything and whatnot. And it's funny, even as time progressed, 30 years later, I would think that I would watch it by now. I mean, I hear people talk about it, I hear people mention it and everything. So, but I just never just man up and just watched it, And then when Daniel finally mentioned about, want to do a, talk about discussion with it, I was kind of, I was like, so I'm gonna have to break the news to him very softly and tell him like, I haven't really watched this film. And he was just like, he literally said, dude, I need to fly or drive or something and come down and bitch slap your ass for not watching this, because this is a ultimate classic. And I said to myself, you know what? I'm at the perfect time in life to actually just watch something. So, and yeah, there he is. Good old sci. What's up, sci-fi? You know, but no, I said to myself, you know what? This is a perfect time to watch this. No more BS. Go ahead and just make the deed and do this. So I decided to watch it, and because not necessarily because I need to, but it's been mentioned. I don't necessarily watch something because someone suggested. I mean, I watch because if they have such a strong opinion about it, and they don't, because I know I've had people suggest films to me before, and they look all great and everything, but it's like it doesn't look that great to me.
Right.
So when I know like you and sci-fi and Anthony mentioned it to me and said this is a very well crafted film, I said I'm a film goer, I'm a film lover. Let me check it out.
I kind of get your point though, because I remember when I saw it in theaters, like there's this mixed emotion. So, because you have to realize it came out a year after it was filmed. So, and of course Brandon's death. So all the hoopla on the news, and we didn't have the internet, so you still had this shit like written in newspaper at the time that they were talking about this stuff. So people going to the films like and watching this, there is that mixed film because it reflects a lot of his real life. So like he was engaged himself to Eliza Hutton during this time, and they were due to get married that year in April, I think. And so the parallels between Brandon and Eric Draven kind of are very similar. And the one thing you walked in on when you joined the stream behind the scenes, Anthony and I were talking about the alleged Bruce Lee curse, because I had seen like Dragon the Bruce Lee story and read up on some of Bruce Lee and the history there. And I know that there's conflicting things, even from Linda Lee saying that there really wasn't a curse. But at the time, I was all in on this like weird thing where Bruce, apparently his lineage from his male side were supposed to not live to a certain age. And so when Brandon died, it was like, oh my God, dude, is this shit like legit? Like, really? You get all kind of weirded about it. And people would leave the theater and it's like, you're happy because the movie's really good. But then on the other side, that Brandon's not here to celebrate that success. of the film. And so I get that feeling why you might have been hesitant to kind of like watch it because of that, you know?
So and that's the thing, and I'm grateful that people suggested not for his death, but to say kind of celebrate that his performance is in this film, and he does a very good. Unlike his father, who's pretty much martial art, bound. Brandon did have that martial art aspect of him, but he did have that acting craft, and I think that's something here he was really trying to build upon. And you see that in his performance in this film. You see that he's able to do action, but he's able to have that balance of, really have that, side of him showing his emotions and how he's lost so much, and that's a kind of hard thing for an actor who does primarily action to do. But yeah, when you watch it, really, it's like it's like his swan song of something he could have done more if he had lived. Unfortunately, you know, fate stepped in and said, "Well, this is going to be your last one, and whatever you did, this will be it, and you'll be very remembered by, which I feel he has. Because, like I say, this movie came out 30 years this year, So
Yeah. Yeah, that was interesting too because when I saw some of Brandon's interviews during that time, like of course it was recorded before he passed away, but he was on set and they were talking and asking him about how he felt about the movie itself. And he's like, the thing I like about this movie is that one, I can showcase my martial arts skills a little bit, but at the same time, I'm able to branch out and show my acting chops because it's not strictly just a martial arts film. Like, in fact, he uses it a little bit, but you got a lot more guns and stuff like that going on in this. So he wanted to branch out. I think he did want to kind of show that he was like this all around actor and not just one specific thing. So who knows where he would have gone beyond that if he had lived. So let's start going into the film itself. And so basically the film starts off with what's called Devil's Night. And this is where a lot of fires are started in the city, got a lot of crime going on. So much to the fact that they've labeled it Devil's Night. It's like a thing that happens every year now. And of course, we're introduced to chaos immediately as Eric and Shelley Webster are killed. And we got the aftermath where they're finding the bodies. And Ernie Hudson, who plays Sergeant Albrecht, is there at that night. And we also were introduced to a young girl named Sarah. And so she was very close with Eric and Shelley as a friend. Because her own life right now, her mom is kind of like in her own world, doing her own thing with drugs and whatever. So we find that Eric's been like shot and thrown out the top window of the loft. He falls to his death, which he was probably already dead, like, as far as the character is concerned, before he went out the window. Shelley is raped and beaten, and then she dies 30 hours later. So for you, Walter, like, what is your first reaction to what you're now just watching early on in the film?
Oh my goodness! I mean, it's something that Anthony had mentioned earlier. It's a very honed in. This is something that was 90s-esque, scene, something drab, very dilapidated type of scene where cities looks just run down, just dystopian type of feel, and it's kind of funny when I watch this, it eerily kind of looks like, and I mentioned this before, it's something that you said, a film that Alex Proyas directed years later, which was Dark City. It almost seems like that.
Yeah.
And truly enough, this is the eeriest thing. It foreshadowed something that would come out a year later with The Matrix. We did something similar with that, and that's the thing that's coming to my mind is like, this almost seems kind of Matrix, the Matrix S kind of feel, even though this ain't The Matrix, it's very
similar aesthetic, yeah.
Yeah, and I was kind of like, because he wears the dark clothes, to wear, almost later and everything. But no, watching it, going into it, you just see that aesthetic that was driven through the 90s like that, that this is definitely 90s aspect of what you see a film during a time where a character is going or has been done away with or whatever, almost kind of like a Batman-esque kind of situation, but much darker, you know.
Hmm.
For me, watching it, I'm just kind of like the story. I don't know where the story was going to go with, I mean, I'm thinking like, okay, some people have died. Where's it going to? You can say, oh, someone's going to be resurrected, but where's it going to go to? And
Right.
I think afterwards, it just went into a tailspin of where I didn't think it was going to go, that it did go, and how the characters interact with one another. It's that's the interesting thing, the interaction with the characters that Brandon Lee's character does. Eric interacts with others. I didn't expect that as much as I thought it would be. And I will say this before get off topic. I didn't realize how much emotion I would feel with what he was going through. I was thinking like, okay, he's killed, he's resurrected, he's coming back, he's avenging and everything. I didn't realize what emotional tug it would have on me personally, because I'm thinking like, why would I be feeling emotional? I mean, it's a kind of a fantasy action picture, but you can feel his pain because every time he touches somebody or really touches any inanimate object or any creature or anything, he gets those psychic memories.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like if it hit them hard. And I realized like, I get this. He's lost so much. And it's only been a year since he's resurrected, and he realized like he had
Yeah,
so
it's
much.
kind of interesting because once he came out of the grave, he was kind of trying to repiece everything together that happened to him.
Right. And that's the thing, and that's the thing. He had no idea who he was or anything. Like, and the crow was the thing that was helping him regain that. And like I say, touching certain things helped him, regain these things. So really, it was a mixed bag of things that I didn't expect. But at the same time, I realized watching it, it's really showing a person, yeah, he's on a vengeance, trip. But at the same time, he's helping those along the way that lost something too.
Yeah.
I feel that's something that's important. Also, it's not just a one-sided thing; it's multiple things, because Sarah's affected by this, and of course, the cop Elgebrook, he's affected by this too. So I can say it's a very character-driven film. As I say.
It,
Anthony, you recently rewatched it. What was was the movie still hitting you as much as it did the first time you saw it?
yeah, it got better, and I think it's one of those films that, like, the older you get and the more you experience grief and loss in your life, the more powerful and effective the movie's going to be. But this time I kind of watched it more just not watching the movie, but just more to take it in, and there were just so many little things that hit me with it, like just how brilliantly written the dialogue is, like when he meets with Ernie Hudson's character in his apartment and he touches Ernie Hudson and gets his memories, and he's like, so you're going to disappear into thin air again? And he goes, no, this time I think I'll use the front door. And I just love dialogue where you can say volumes with just saying a little bit, and it was just, yeah, you're a friend. It just had those, it did have good action, but there was just so many little moments of subtlety, and like Walter said, him helping people along the way, like even detoxing the mother. It kind of in some ways reminds me of like just the Western archetype where the mysterious gunfighter comes into town, rights the wrongs, then just rides off and is never seen again. It's just uses
almost Clint Eastwood, like, he just kind of comes in and takes care of
exactly
business.
Hail Rider.
Yeah, it was funny too, because you mentioned the subtlety about the comedic moments. Like, you had the moments where like that when in the apartment with Albrecht, and then when he goes to Gideon's pawn shop and he jumps up and he's hanging upside down. He's like, Mr. Gideon, you're not paying attention. So he does these little things like he's still battling all this pain, because it's almost like from one moment to the next, it's almost like ADD, you know, because he's searching through the rings, you know, he's not even looking, because he wants to find the one that he knows is Shelley's, and so he'll feel it immediately when it happens.
Yeah,
and so he's battling all these emotions. Yet at the same time, there's anger and there's sarcasm. It's like a sarcastic comedy that he has, like fun boy, you know, he's rolling his head around the light bulb, and so he's doing these different motions, which shows a lot of range for Brandon there, and the character of Eric Draven. So I really like that a lot.
He plays it just a little crazy,
Mm-hmm.
like not full blown unhinged madman, but just that the trauma of what he went through, there is that crazy edge to him. I really feel if his accident hadn't happened, I think this movie shows one day he would have been an Oscar for Best Actor or Best Supporting Actor, because he really did have those chops.
Yeah, I agree.
I could see that.
So basically, after a year, Eric Draven rises from the grave, and so the crow is a vessel, well, not really a vessel, but a creature that allows him to see through its eyes, guide him, and so it's guiding him back to the apartment, where he starts to piece together what happened to him. As Walter mentioned, you know, when he touches certain creatures or people, he can see what they saw through their memories, and so his cat Gabriel's still there, and so he's just trying to pet it, and of course he can see what the cat saw the night of the murders, and so it brings back the pain, and so now he's, you know, he figures, okay, he jumped up and hurt himself on some glass. It healed. So now he's like, okay, I have a purpose. There's a reason why I'm back. So he puts on some of his rock and roll clothes, and he puts on some makeup like a mime, which Sergeant Albrecht makes a little joke later on. It's like a mime from hell. Like, I thought that was kind of funny. And so then Eric begins his search for the men who killed Shelley and him. And so the crow is going to continue to guide him. So the first one they track down is Tintin, you know, young black man that's part of this group of T-Bird, Skank, and Fun Boy. So they're just like this collective that go around and trash the city and blow up shit and just outright killers and whatnot. So interestingly enough, Tintin's played by Lawrence Mason, who, if you have not seen, another great movie he's in called Hackers from '95 with Johnny Lee Miller and a young Angelina Jolie. So he's in that as well. So he's a very good actor and a great character in this. And so obviously Draven's going now and just going to find each guy that's part of this group and take him out. The one thing I thought was kind of interesting and a nice twist in as far as like the group that he's searching for is that normally it's the head guy that you take out last. And in this case, there is one head guy, but we haven't really figured that out yet in this movie. But T-Bird is the guy that kind of is the ringleader of this group. So one of my favorite scenes, of course, is the car. You know, he gets in the car, and which is a very cool car, by the way. I have to give credit to T-Bird there. That shit's pretty legit.
Yeah.
This is our boy T-Bird, played by the wonderful David Patrick Kelly, who plays villains like no other, from The Warriors to Commando to Last Man Standing. The dude just nails the villain role down. So he's in his car. Draven's there. He's like, I'm your passenger, drive. He's got him by gunpoint. So Draven's making him fly down the road. And then there comes a scene, of course, where he's taping him up in the driver's seat, and T-Bird's like frantically trying to figure out, what the fuck do you want, dude? I don't even know you. Until he somehow, Draven's able to, like, this is probably one of the weirdest scenes of the movie where I don't know how he's actually able to do it, but something happens and they meet eye to eye, and then T-Bird sees the night that he killed Draven, says, yeah, I know you. We killed you. We threw you out a window. I'll start with Anthony. Like, what is your feeling on this particular scene?
Well, this one, like I said, just because even though he wasn't the actual head guy, because he was the ringleader of the band of miscreants. This was one of the most gratifying ones to see happen, and the fact that this one, he like even took time and it was like, no, you're not getting it as easy as your friends. You're really good. Like, he ties them up, pours the gasoline, puts the grenade in the car.
Yeah.
Even the stylized cinematography, I love. Like, this film looks like a music video, and I'm guessing they used like a miniature city for the shots.
Yeah.
And it just, the look of the city, it's supposed to be Detroit, but it doesn't look like Detroit in our world. The city really feels like a character in its own right that's just the observer to
It
these
almost looks like
events.
Gotham with like Seattle rain.
Yeah, this movie is so stylized.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought this was, I said, this was the most satisfying one. The cinematography, like even that scene where they kind of meet eye to eye, and I love that in films when you get this. Okay, now how did that happen? Shot, and even like watching it, like you're even from a technical standpoint, you're kind of scratching your head on how did they pull that off.
Mm-hmm. Walter, how'd you feel about this scene?
Oh my God! I mean, that was the thing, you know. I mean, because yeah, T-Bird is the head of these guys, but that's the thing. I mean, you think, yeah, that's the normality of certain films. That's one of the tropes is you're working your way up to the head person, but the whole purpose of this was that Eric's not even thinking about the head guy. He's thinking only of the people responsible for his and his fiance's death. That's it. So when he takes him out, I'm like, it's I
Yeah, it's
could say
like the
it's
movie's not over yet. No.
right, exactly. I mean, he takes him out, you know, in a very big way, you know, and it's I mean, it's like Anthony say, it's satisfying, but it's like, huh. I mean, and in time I realized like, okay, he's only getting the ones who are responsible. And that's kind of something that, you know, is a trope all through a lot of films, revenge films. It's like get the ones or say take out go through all the ones who are really not the big bad. You're going for the big bad. But here it's like his main focus is just these individuals and taking out T-Bird, strapping him down, making sure that, and the funny thing is he's got explosives in the back, in the trunk. I'm just like, well, that's just adding insult to injury, you know. But it's the moment where he does the leaves his because he leaves his mark, you know,
Yeah.
like with the other two guys. Yeah, leaves his mark, you know, and does that flame of the throat. I could not help but think, was that something of a foreshadowing for 20 2003's Daredevil, where they do something similar like that, where you know he
It's
leaves
possible.
Mm.
They could
and
have borrowed from it, sure.
I wouldn't doubt. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it because see, it was so similar to this, and it's like, dude, this is the first time I've ever seen someone do something like that. I was like, don't tell me that y'all didn't copy The Crow because that's too on the nose, you know, with that. But no, just seeing how they did that and how he took them out was just, yeah, it's just like wow. I mean, like at least he knows what his mission is and what he's there to do, you know.
Yep. Yeah, and like obviously he finally gets to skank the last one, who's kind of like your oddball speed freak, as Top Dollar would call him.
Yeah.
But so once he's gotten rid of him, he thinks, okay, I'm gonna go back to the grave. I'm gonna go back home, and I've done what I needed to do. But of course, Top Dollar, who runs the entire city and runs this group of T-Bird and his little cronies, isn't really pleased that, you know, he lost a lot of business on Devil's Night. So he's going to take it upon himself to kidnap Sarah, who again is very close to Draven, who knows that he's there. Like, this is the one thing that is kind of showing up where Eric's kind of helping out Sarah and her mom, and kind of coming to peace with Sergeant Albrecht and stuff like that. So they've seen him, but they also know and understand what he is and who he is. He's like dead and gone. He's like a ghost, sort of. So Top Dollar kidnaps Sarah. They're in like a chapel sorts, and they figured out that the crow is actually a link for Eric between the land of the living and the dead. So if they can kill the crow, it will make Eric Draven mortal, and he'll be able to be killed again. So that's the plan that they have now. And I've always hated that part of it, but at the same time, it makes sense. There's always got to be like a weak link of sorts, especially if you're going to introduce a creature that's sort of your guide. It has to have some sort of purpose. So it makes sense.
I mean, I was gonna say the hero can't always be omnipotent like that. That like Superman, he's got to have some kind of weakness. Some kryptonite has to be involved with that.
It was something the director created for the movie because that's not part of the comic, and he just wanted to have that moment, even if it was brief, where the audience felt like he might not succeed.
Yeah, and that's actually pretty good, I think, because especially towards the end, one of the things that Wincott's character and Velle, which were brother and sister in this, and they're not very good people, but they had a habit of, they had their own kind of spirituality. It was really weird. They would cut out the eyes of victims and kind of like take in their essence or something. It just helped supposedly give them some sort of supernatural powers themselves, but even though they didn't really possess any. So Bai Ling's character, Micah, she's like, she wants that crow because she knows that it's actual real supernatural power there. And of course she gets her fitting in as well. But this leads us to like a rooftop battle now between Top Dollar and Eric Draven, where they're kind of sword fighting and all this stuff on the top. And I guess that's good where the crow gets shot in the leg. So it did make Eric immortal to a point that, he isn't quite dead yet. But, Sergeant Albrecht comes in and starts giving a hand and chaos ensues. But they're up on the roof. And I don't want to give away I'm going to let either Walter or Anthony handle the end of here, how it finishes off Top Dollar. I guess I'll give it to Walter because I think this is one of probably the most, Anthony talked about how T-Bird got one of the more satisfactory kills of the death scenes. But I do think Top Dollar got one that really was much deserved because the dude was like just so arrogant and conceited that you didn't see that coming. So what did you feel about how Eric gave him to death?
It is a very, and that's the thing right there. Remember when we say, the trope of revenge films, it's like he is the big bad, but he wasn't the big bad in that sense. And the simple fact is when he explains to him that no one does anything without my authority, he was like, dude, did you not have to say that? You didn't have to say that, I mean, he could have easily died and been done with it, because he was going, once he killed the other four, he was done. Once he said that, it's like, I said to myself, I mean, how you going to get this dude? He said, I have something I want to give you. I don't want it anymore. So when he puts his hands on his head, he's like, he said, I'm giving you 30 hours of suffering all at once. It's like, and I guess it just scrambled his brain, just everything just all at once, all that tension, all that just really ravaged him to the core. And it just messed him up real good because he could have just easily just left it alone, not even mention that he was the one that ordered the guys to kill his woman and everything. But when he got his just desserts, it's like that was very satisfying because it's like you deserve that, dude. I don't wish nothing on anyone, but you had that coming. And when he did that to him, it was like, and then it's just like, yes. I mean, it was a very satisfying death. And it wasn't, and the funny thing is, it wasn't that cliche because it's like, Eric's gonna kill him some kind of way, but how? I mean, he could do anything,
It came off kind of both of like, okay, you're gonna get your just dessert, but this is sort of cathartic for me too, because now I'm done. Like I can let this pain go. Anthony, how did you feel about that scene?
I thought it was great. I love the fact too that Eric even tried to give him an easy out. Just let
Yeah.
the girl go and you can live. But, fun fact before I get to the Crow in this film, with the exception of obviously the new film, was the one returning actor in all the movies. But I do love that scene. Just, I have something for you, something I don't want anymore. And even that, in itself is a poignant statement about grief, because at some point you either have to choose, am I going to carry this thing with me for the rest of my life, or am I going to choose to let it go and move on with my life, which in this case for him, let it go and move on to the afterlife. The one thing I do kind of go back and forth on, as satisfying as his death was, I just wonder how it would have been different if it didn't kill him. In Top Dollar was just left for the rest of his life with that scrambled mind acting like, as you
Comatose,
call
yeah.
them, one of those oddball speed freaks.
Yeah, like some sort of lobotomy.
Like, it's one of those things where I love the way it is, but if you change it and did this, it could have been equally as great. But I'm not suggesting it should have been changed. I just think that thought's a fun what if, and just seeing the final three even taken out up to that, like Tony Todd's character especially, who, even though he didn't do too much, he was just this maniacal individual you wanted to see taken out. And I even love Tony Todd's performance in this, just in terms of posture and the way he talks. It
He's a
takes you
very
a moment
calm,
to
cool, collected dude.
it takes you he just brings something so different to this role that, like, it takes you a minute to realize, hey, that's Tony Todd.
Yep.
But
Yeah, even people I've seen do reactions to this for the first time, they're like, "Isn't that Candyman?" I was like, "Yes, it is. It is."
Isn't that Warp's brother?
Yeah, yeah. So this film, obviously, well, let's get to the end here, because the very end, of course, we've eradicated the entire crime and the city's not on fire, so that's always a good thing. So Eric makes his way back to the gravestone where Shelley is, and of course, we have this nice, beautiful scene where her apparition comes and is sort of comforting to him, and I guess sort of try to lead him back to heaven or wherever they're going to go. It's a really nice scene. You could tell, though, through the graphics and CGI, this was a moment that was filmed with a double, because they tried to superimpose Brandon's face on the actor, but it's not enough to like really shake you or anything, but you can definitely notice it. But it's a sweet scene, and of course, the Crow managed to retrieve the ring that Top Dollar took from Sarah and give it back to her. And then there's a nice little thing where she's given like a narration at the end about love is forever and all this stuff. So again, like I said at the beginning, leaving the theater, like it, obviously if Brandon had stayed alive and everything, people would still enjoy this film a lot. But I think the contrast between him with the tragedy with that, plus the content of the plot, where it all kind of parallels one another, it left people with mixed feelings. Like I generally got sad like a couple of times watching that in theaters, and it does leave you kind of teary eyed. At least now it's time has passed, so it's not as bad. But I still, when I watch it, I'm kind of like, man, it just sucks that this dude's gone. Like, as Anthony pointed to, the sky was the limit with Brandon. Like, I think he would have done far more things in the acting world than his dad probably dreamed of. His dad, I know, wanted to do a lot. He wanted to bring martial arts to the American audiences, which he did. But I'm not sure if Bruce ever kind of saw beyond the martial arts part, because that was such a big part of him. Brandon was sharing both, between martial arts and acting. So I think the sky was a bigger limit for him than his dad in that regard, anyway.
And I feel that, and just kind of conclude, the fact of the matter is, I look at his lineage, and what's uncanny too about that is the time between his father's death and his death are, you know, almost paralleled in terms of years, because it was almost, I think, just about 20 years when his father passed away, you know, and everything. And like I say, he could have gone somewhere, you know, with his father, but Brandon really had a notch for what he was doing and where he was going. And like I say, I've seen previous films, like I say, Little Showdown in Little Tokyo, and then Rapid Fire. And I was like, I really want to see, you know, I mean, yes, this is Bruce Lee's son, but he's Brandon Lee. He's making a name for himself. I want to see where this guy's going, you know. And like I say, I figured with The Crow, because I figured like, well, it's not a martial arts film, but I say, okay, maybe this is something really touching on his acting skills. So it's like, I want to see what he's gonna do. Then tragedy stepped in. Then it's like, okay, maybe it's not what's gonna go. Then when I finally see the film years later and realize this man could have really gone somewhere. And like Anthony mentioned, he, who knows if he had won an Oscar if he had lived. You know, it's so much what ifs in terms of could he have not been, you know, and you just never know. And I feel that he would have not got pigeonholed into being like say Sylvester Stallone or Arnold Schwarzenegger or even Van Damme into just doing action pictures. You know, he would do something.
I think that's what he wanted. I think that he purposely set out to not just be an action star. I think that's one thing that he wanted to kind of prove to himself, that it wasn't that he like didn't like martial arts or didn't like what his dad was doing, but he says, you know, I don't want to be doing just one thing. I want to be able to do a lot of different things. And so I think he was like, martial arts is part of me, but it's only going to be a small part of me. I want to be something bigger than that. And I guess he felt that Eric Draven as a character was something he can use as a platform to kind of catapult beyond that. So this movie did spawn some sequels. We won't even go into them because they're not really that great. It also spawned a TV series featuring the one guy that's a star of my other favorite movie, Brotherhood of the Wolf. Now, I don't know if Walter was aware of this. I know Anthony was. We talked a little bit about it. There was a TV series, short-lived. I think it only did 1 year, with Mark Dacascos playing Eric Draven. They were basically playing off of the Eric Draven thing. Like, it was falling. The one thing I said was to Anthony was, I think it probably failed because it was a little bit too soon. It was like a couple years or so after The Crow had come out, and I think that sometimes people don't like it when you're kind of pushing. Like, I think that's, you know, City of Angels tried to be different. The sequel to, or the second Crow film tried to be different from the first, but again, you're dealing with emotions. People are really passionate about the first one. But I figured I'd play the trailer for you, Walter, if you had never seen this trailer for the series. So this is The Crow, called Stairway to Heaven. Figure.
People once believed that when someone dies, a crow carries their soul to the land of the dead.
But sometimes something so bad happens that a terrible sadness is carried with it, and the soul can't rest.
And sometimes, just sometimes, the crow can bring a soul back to put things right.
Things can never be right. My soul will never rest until we are together again.
Okay.
So yeah, there you have it.
You can find it on YouTube to watch.
Really?
If you're curious.
I might check it out.
James Warrior, thank you for stopping by, good sir. That Warrior is awesome, and it has Shannon Lee. She was in real life Mortal Kombat TV show. Yeah, are you talking about the one with Jamie Presley as well? Is that the one you're referring to, James? Because I think I remember that. Let's see. Only as Strong is a great martial arts film. I didn't see Double Dragon. It looked a bit too corny for me, but I know a lot of people love it because it wasn't it like a game Double Dragon?
Yeah.
I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, at the end of the day, The Crow, man, it has a lot of great atmosphere, cinematography, musical score is amazing, and the choreography of the fights is actually pretty good. Like I love. I don't know how much. I'm sure Brandon had some input on that, but I'm not sure how much of it he was. But it was all very good, done very well. What is your feelings, basically overall for this film? We'll start with Anthony.
Well, it absolutely stands the test of time. It's so much more than just a action film. It gets lumped into horror all the time, which nothing about this screams horror to me, even though it is a very gothic film that just it again dealing with it's so tied into real tragedies. The writer of the comic writing this after his fiance passed away, the story he read that also helped inspire it about a couple that just got engaged and a mugger killed them for the ring. It's just this classic film that stood the test of time, that just it touches, it's like a raw nerve with how it deals with these very real and powerful emotions, but at the end it still has a hopeful note that yeah, you can let go of this grief that's weighing you down and move on and find peace. It's a film I think that like I would recommend to anyone. It's worth watching. It deserves its place in film history.
Definitely, Walter.
Yes. Right. That's something that Rory was bringing up. That score, I've heard that score before I saw this film. I've heard that score in a trailer. I can't remember what the name of the trailer was, what the trailer heard it in, but when I heard those few notes at the beginning of the film, I was kind of like, oh, that's where this music comes from. That's where that particular score comes from. Again, I didn't think that that's what, and that's kind of funny when you hear different scores for, when you hear certain scores in trailers, you feel like, okay, where did they come from? Where did they come from? And I can't remember what the hell the trailer was, but when I heard the score by Graham in here, I was like, I know that notes. I know those few notes. I know that particular score, and that's like I love it. I love that particular score. It stands out so well, and that's what's so enriching, that you don't know what's going to be affecting you in terms of what in terms of music style, the acting, the cinematography, whatever. It's I guess it's just a good blend of all these things that brings it together. And now that I've seen it for the first time, I can tell you now, and I told this to I think Anthony knows this. I told Sci-Fi that I kind of like this a little bit better, even though it's a classic. But I kind of like this better than The Matrix a little bit.
Oh, that's way better than Matrix.
I mean, I'm sorry to say, but it's just something about it. I mean, I get what The Matrix is doing, and I enjoyed it for what it is, but I feel that this one really has a much more substance to it, that I feel is honed in than what The Matrix, because Matrix is just talking about, the reality and, what is real and whatever, Here is just showing a person who's trying to kind of right the wrongs that have been done to him and some other people, and knowing that that is the arc of this person, even though he lost everything, in a way he kind of gained it back to a degree. I mean he's at peace now, but it's something more to it than what The Matrix does, and that's why I say this film is definitely on my top list of films that I wish I could have seen. I should have seen when it first came out, but maybe there was a right time for it to come out, and maybe that was the case there. So, but no, this film is really one of those, I can say, a kick-ass film, and yeah, I recommend it to anybody because it's I see why it is what it is, you know, and I see why there's so many, you know, fans and hardcore fans who enjoy it. So now that I've seen it, I'm the same way.
Yeah, before we get into the ratings, because I always like to do ratings at the end here, but I've done a trailer reaction for the reboot remake that's coming out. So if anybody wants to check that out, it's in my list somewhere, the trailer reactions, if you want to check it out. But have you guys watched the trailer for the remake with Bill Skarsgård?
I hear about it.
I
And when I heard it was the remake of this, I was like, nope. I mean, I ain't even seen this film, and then I was like, you're remaking something that's, and it's like, no, thank you, no, thank you.
I didn't even get half. I made it to about the halfway point to the trailer, and I'm like, I've seen enough.
Yeah, that's we brought that up earlier, James, about Dark City being very similar to Matrix, as well as some of the Crow, like just the scenery and stuff like that. So, obviously, I think Proyas took a lot of the influence from the Crow and threw it in Dark City. I went to see Dark City because of obviously with Proyas doing the Crow. I thought, okay, this looks kind of cool, but I never came out of Dark City really liking it. A lot of people love that film, so it's like another kind of like cult classic. But maybe I just got to revisit it. But I just never really dug it that much personally. But the Crow is amazing, so I'm not gonna bash the guy or anything like that.
Yeah.
What does Jody say here? Top dollar, greater than greedy computer monsters. Now anarchy, that's fun. The Joker before the Joker.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Maybe I check that out, Jake.
Whoa, Jake! Come on, Jake. Now someone got on me about not seeing the Crow. Now you ain't seen Dark City, dude. Come on now.
Yeah, see, Skarsgård, like I said this the other day. He's good in some stuff and not good in others. So like it didn't like him as Pennywise, but he was great in John Wick 4. Boy Kills World. He was amazing in that. I thought it was amazing. I really enjoyed that a lot. Let's see. Who was they laugh? They laugh. That's Anthony. Yeah, Wincott's great, dude. He plays another good guy. He plays villains as well. I'm watching a remake. Looks like fun. Wait a minute. Are you watching it now? Like,
wait a minute. It came out?
Well, I think it's. I don't know if it's out. Is it out?
I don't think it's out. Is it?
Or is he just trolling us, or is he doing it illegally?
He might be. I don't. He might be trolling us.
If it did, that just shows how much we care about that movie.
Well, I said at the time in my reaction, I was like, look, I don't mind Skarsgård, but again, like I think Anthony brought it up earlier when we were off screen that if they weren't playing the same characters, I probably could give them a little bit of leeway. But the other thing it works against is musical score. Like it's not that I have against hip hop or anything like that. It's just it's not really my style. So I like with the Crow, the original, the rock stuff made sense. It works. It fits everything that's going on, and even Graham Revelle's like musical scores is really good for it. Sometimes when I'm watching like an action or a action flick of sorts, I've seen they try to use hip hop and it doesn't really mesh for me. It doesn't really work. So you remember when Godzilla versus Kong came out, the trailer, and of course they had the monsters fighting on top of the ship. Well, they started doing that hip hop beat or whatever it was, and I thought it's kind of a dumb song to use. Now some people were pumped up by it, which is fine. I'm not saying anybody can't listen to that stuff. It's just not for me. It's just about vibe. And so like I don't know. I like when Anthony you brought up I think about GXK with a more rock oriented soundtrack that made it worked for me. It was really good. I really enjoyed that. Oh. He saw the screen and hated himself. He said, "Paint me up. I don't want to see myself in the mirror."
Yeah, here we go. Yeah.
When it comes, okay, so so he's gonna see it when it does come out. Gotcha.
I'm gonna say it like this.
Yeah, I liked Wincott. He was also in wasn't it with Kevin Costner, Robin Hood? Wasn't he in that as well? I think. Or no,
Uh,
wait, no, maybe it was that was actually Rickman.
Alan Rickman, you talking about?
Yeah, but I think Wincott was in Three Musketeers. He was in one of those. I remember way back in the
Okay.
day.
He's been in so many things. I mean, I can't remember exactly who was in that.
Yeah, he's a good actor. He's really good.
Now
One
that's
thing
one thing
though
about
about
him. He's very chameleonish with his style. Yeah.
yeah, one thing I did read though was because Michael Massey, who played Funboy, he's the one that actually had the shot that ended up killing Brandon. Like, apparently he was very scarred from that. Like, even though he still kind of did some acting, he stopped for a long while. Like, he wasn't doing anything because it was weighing too heavily on him. So I feel bad for that dude, man. Like, to be the guy that happened to, it's like shit. All right, let's get down to the ratings here. Anthony Jordan, what would you give The Crow 1994 out of 10?
A+ movie.
Walter.
It's definitely a. You know what? No, I'm gonna say it. It's like 9.9 on this one. I'm gonna say that.
Okay. For me, it's always going to be a 10. It hasn't changed, never will. It's been in my top one for like years, so like I don't see it ever again dethroned before I die. So it's there along with Brotherhood of the Wolf. Those two films are amazing to me. Guys, what do you got coming up? Anthony, anything for you on your channel?
Well, finishing my Gundam Seed retrospective and then going back to my Godzilla retrospective.
Any timetable on those, or is just when they come out?
Well, the second to last Gundam Seed retrospective video is edited. I just have to upload it, and the last video is on this phone, which is my recording phone. I gotta just upload it, do the editing, and then set a premiere date.
What about you, Mr. Ross, Jedi Vale? What do you got? Anything coming up for you?
It's well, as I said before, it's not until it probably won't be until like maybe in the next month. It's something in dealing with documentaries. I got something on order, which is Aliens Expanded, and what I'm going to do is do a discussion about the documentaries that hone in all these classic films that we loved growing up and watching. You know, I mean, it's something I don't think too many people touch on, because the simple fact is, it's the reason why they make these documentaries. You know, like really, like say for Superman or RoboCop, or even something like what's this film? Track, yeah. Well, like I say, Aliens, you know. But simple fact is, I'm going to kind of touch base on it and do a not so much a quick, but it's going to be pretty much a good lengthy topic where I say why these films stand so strong to have documentaries built on them. You know, because let's face it, they wouldn't be made if the film itself didn't have some kind of clout. You know, and I want to kind of touch base on that, because it's honestly, you know, I love documentaries, you know, but when you see people take the time to discuss, you know, films that we love so much and say, why do we love them so much? I want to kind of discuss that. So that's what's going to be coming up, but it probably won't be until like I say next month, something like that.
All right, cool. Yeah, for me right now, I got a few things next week. I know that Neko and I will be doing, is it next week, July 4th? Yeah.
Yes, right. Yeah.
So we'll be doing a classic reflections. We'll be listening and reviewing Static X's Wisconsin Death Trip, which has a 25th anniversary record for that on July 4th, actually. And then Friday, I think I'm doing a top 10 iconic deaths with Mr. Lambert of the E Entertainment headquarters. 10 iconic deaths in movies, so that's gonna be a lot of fun. And I'm gonna try to get another Lone Wolf segment out for the Invincible Armor, which I just watched again the other night. So I'm try to get a little more consistent with my Lone Wolf with Dub series out there. So be looking for that, as well as the top 5 metal releases and rock releases of the week. I always put out weekly. Let's see what else I got to say in the chat here. You guys did another great live stream for iconic film. Thank you. Appreciate that.
You know?
So nice of you. It's a great time at films. I'll have to check that out. Thanks, James. Appreciate that. All right. Well, for the rest of you all, thank you much. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you enjoy it. You guys, Anthony, Jordan, Walter, thank you so much for joining me with this. Walter, I'm glad you enjoyed this film a lot. And we will see you next time on the Metal Time Radio podcast. Take care of yourselves.
You see before you die.